Good evening. I think I just mucked that up. Never mind, that's close enough. Good evening. Good to see you all on. I see we've got a couple of viewers on already. Nice to see everybody. If you would like to leave me a quick chat on the stream, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to see what's in. Got one already. Hi, Tommy. Tommy M. Greeting from the USA. Good evening or good afternoon. Well, depends. It's going to be probably late morning or early afternoon in the USA. Whereabouts are you from, Tommy? Because it's a big place, the US. Whereabouts are you from? But wherever it is, good to see you on the channel. Let's see what we've got. I'm going to try and get this done. We have problems tonight, and I'll let you know what the problems are in a couple of seconds. I'm just going to try and put this onto the main webcam one. That should be a better picture because yeah, I've got a couple of problems. I have no internet. My internet is down. In fact, not just my internet, but all the ones in this geographical area around the Brampton in Cumbria area who are using the Vonus system. It's down. So I've got my machine hooked up through Bluetooth to my phone. So if this is a bit of a jittery picture, let me know if it is watchable. Let me know if it's not watchable. But I know that YouTube Studio here is throwing up lots of errors saying that it's going to be very jittery with buffering. If it is buffering, I do apologise, but the internet has been off here since lunchtime and I don't know when it's going to be coming back on. And of course I had to do a teaching session at 6:30. So that was fun, trying to do a teaching session on Zoom. But hopefully you're able to see me, although it looks like my YouTube Studio has frozen up a little bit. It's high noon in Arizona. Thanks. Where I've always fancied. I love the idea of going to Arizona. It's one of those. There's some states in the US which just seem to have them to somebody who's 4,000 miles away. Quite often these things aren't the case. I'm hoping it is the case with Arizona. That is a magical place when you're over there. But yeah, it's one of those sort of states which just evoke something really rather good in the mind. So good to see you, Tommy. And high noon. Do not forsake me, oh my darling. Frankie Lane, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Well, good evening. Nice to see everybody online. I see we've got about 12 viewers at the moment. And tonight's topic, I've got a couple of topics to talk about tonight. But the main one is the photography in public places, which I released a video about a fortnight ago. And it went ballistic for one of my videos. Normally my videos do sort of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 for a really good video. Sometimes they just top over just over 1,000. I think last time I looked was about 32,000 and climbing steadily. So it's in the top 5 videos. I don't have a huge amount of videos in the tens of thousands, but this one really hooked. And the amount of comments that I got from it was phenomenal. I'm presuming, by the way, that you can hear me. I've got a new sound module as well. I bought myself a little Behringer sound module. So I'm presuming that you can hear me, and you can hear me out of both channels as well, left and right. But yeah, it really kicked off some comments, and I'd love to know on here some of your comments as to if you have problems where you get I got into trouble for calling them Karens. Somebody told me off for calling them Karens. I'm not going to call them Karens anyway. I got told it was racist and sexist and things, but if I say Karen, you know exactly the sort of person I'm talking about. The self-opinionated, they're going to have a go at you whatever happens. So if you get problems with those, let me know in the comments to the side here if you want to. I'd love to see what your comments are on this, but I really was a little bit disturbed by this. So I'll tell you a little bit of the background for me as a photographer, because I've mentioned this online before, but I've had a photography business twice. I had one in the 80s and I had one until just before COVID. Well, just after COVID started, really. At the beginning of COVID, I closed it down. I haven't really restarted it. I've had a few little attempts to do it. And I've done some jobs recently, some paid jobs, but I haven't gone into it properly. But, excuse me, gonna have a drink of my coffee. For Angus McNaughton, if you're watching, Angus, I have my cup of coffee. Other brands are available. If Costa would like to sponsor me, I would be more than happy to. But yeah, I'm going to finish my coffee off. Throw it in the bin. Yeah, I had a couple of photography businesses, but I've also been a press officer for 2 organisations. One was the Air Cadets, Royal Air Force Air Cadets for Cumbria and Lancashire. I was their press officer and photographer for them, and also for Rotary International in Cumbria and Lancashire, where I was, and also the main photographer for them. And that entailed me going out and covering an awful lot of events. It was interesting when I was the official photographer on those. When I was with Rotary, I used to wear a yellow bib with a Rotary symbol and photographer on. When I was in the RAF, I obviously had a Royal Air Force uniform on, and I was doing it. Never had any problem with that. I'd be photographed, and there'd be thousands of people around there. And of course, when I was photographing with the Air Cadets, it was basically shooting photos of teenagers from 12 to 19. In my last... oh, thanks, Bev. You can hit me, that's great. In my last job, I was doing both the cadets, but also I did school photography where I was doing primary schools. So I was shooting thousands, and I mean tens of thousands, of primary school kids. And it's interesting that, yes, I know it was official that I was doing it, but you were still taking photographs. People were still trusting you to take photographs. But I've had a few issues since I've been out and about, and it's usually been... I don't mind somebody approaching me and asking me about what I'm doing. I'm very, very happy with that. In fact, I love the idea of sharing the information and telling them and showing some of the photographs that I've taken if it's interesting things. There's the people who come up and verbally assault you, don't give you a chance. And to those, I really do feel that, you know, they're the ones that I worry about, because they'll come in on the attack before they even know. The thing that prompted me in the video was sitting down looking at my camera at a coffee shop outside. Not a soul around except this one person who was walking across the car park, but I was actually looking down at with the menu. The camera was pointing down at the table. I was looking at the menu when I got this screaming attack from a woman telling me that I was a pervert and I was taking photographs of kids, and you think, well, there's none around. But it was the third time I'd had that happen inside. And that was the annoying thing. And not one occasion had I actually been trying to take photographs of people. In fact, I've been avoiding it. I usually find if I'm doing street photography, having faces in there spoils it for me. I like using people as silhouettes or somebody to set the scene, but I rarely like to get faces in there. So let me know if you've had problems along this. There was an awful lot of comments. I'm just going to look here from there. I do feel for the lovely Karens out there. Yeah, I know. It is very unfair on people who actually called Karen who are nice. I have some great friends called Karen, but we all know the stereotype we do. Now, before I go on about stereotypes, and before I go on about Karens and go on about that, Generation Exceptional. Now, I'm going to mention this a couple of times, whether you like it or not, Bev. My sister, who you've met on the channel before, she was in some of my very first videos on this, has got an excellent channel out. Now, I am the end of the baby boomers. I was born in 1961, but Bev was one of the early Gen X, the Generation X, and her Generation Exceptional channel is absolutely fantastic. She started off recently. It's not quite 1,000 subscribers yet, so I really want to see her channel go up. She's really got some fantastic stuff on there. For people who are, well, it's supposed to be Gen X, you know, that, Bev, you can tell me in the comments as to what the official years of Gen X are. But if you're in the sort of in your 50s or coming up towards 60, there's a huge amount of stuff that Bev's got which you might find really... And there is a difference between the baby boom and the Gen X. Bev and I see an awful lot of things differently. So check out Generation Exceptional. That's my sister's channel. And I won't take no for an answer on it. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the people for photography. Let me know below. But one of the things that really came out was the difference between people taking photographs in public using something like a mobile phone and using a proper camera. And it seems that if you're using a proper camera these days, you're almost seen as being something something corrupt, as if you really shouldn't be doing that out there. The interesting thing is I can take much more covert photographs with a mobile phone than I ever can with a big camera. If I'm putting a big camera on the place, you usually know it. But with a mobile phone, I can be very, very covert. And I could take photographs of all sorts of people if I wanted to, without them necessarily knowing. Let's have a look. Anthony, all the way from the other side of the pond, Newfoundland, Canada. Hi in Newfoundland, Canada. What's the temperature like over there? It must be, because you're in your summer season as well over there. I very nearly went out to new stations. Well, we share with the Canadian Air Force, out there, and I very nearly got a little deployment out. Never got the chance, and I was really upset about it because I was looking forward to doing it. But yeah, hi in Newfoundland. Yeah, the idea of using mobile phones to me is an awful lot more covert and an awful lot more sinister in public. But when I have had situations where people have come up to me without the aggression, without the nastiness, almost all of those situations have worked out really, really well. They've worked out to be to be interesting conversations where you can share your love of your hobby and share those photographs really being positive from that. So let me know in the comments at the side there. I think the size of the camera, accessories and appearance matters. I think it does, but I think it's the wrong logic. As I say, it certainly does matter if you've got a large camera to a degree. I'll come back to that in a sec. But if you've got a more professional looking camera, you do tend to be seen in a worse light. Now, why I mentioned about the press photography at the beginning was the fact that you would have thought, as a photographer representing an organisation, as a press photographer, you know, with a press pass and all the bits and pieces to say, look at me, I'm press, that people would have been more circumspect about what I was doing. I never had any of that. Obviously, I wasn't paparazzi, but I was certainly covering the event as a press photographer. I never got any of those problems. It works up to the sort of SLR type cameras. If you were to get a large or a medium format camera out, a large sort of box camera, I think people would be just fascinated at what you were doing rather than anything else. But I think it's not so much about the photography. This is going into all sorts of different areas. And those areas, it's how people approach other people in life. It seems to be an awful lot of aggression. EJ, I mean, if you look like a photographer in photographer's hat and vest, and your camera is really huge with a cage and a lot of stuff around, people see you differently. They do, but as I say, with a photographer's sort of hat, I didn't wear a hat, but a photographer's vest on, yeah, I didn't get any hassle. Just taking a normal camera out, dressed in normal civvy clothes, I did. Yeah, I think for me it's the lack of niceness that people have, and I'm not on about not on about the nicey bit. I'm not on about the, oh, we have to be so nice to each other and isn't it a sweet world, but I'm on about the fact of just having some normal manners. You go up to somebody and say, excuse me, you know, just out of curiosity, what is it you're up to, what is it you're doing, what are you taking photographs of? I'm just interested to know. If somebody came up with that approach to me, I'd be more than happy to converse with them and probably show them what I was taking photographs of, because it would be interest. But when somebody comes up and starts shouting and swearing and calling you weird or a pervert or something like that, purely for the fact you've got a camera in your hand, that's where I have the problem on there. But it doesn't just seem to be photography. And I think what we've seen in the UK, for those of you who are outside scenes in the last week, with uprisings in various cities, and an awful lot of the photographers who are out there actually documenting the scene, their rights being stamped on, being taken away from them because they're covering a scene, and a lot of the authorities not necessarily wanting them to cover that. So I think it's where we're going, and this week's been very difficult for me to follow. I'm not going to give big opinions on what's going on. I just think it's a very sad thing when we had three young schoolgirls at a holiday club who were murdered, and another 10, I think, were quite seriously attacked with a knife. And you know, we're not going into the ins and outs of that, but it has sparked off civil unrest, and that civil unrest has been covered by several photographers. I'm just having a look at Anthony again. You've had icebergs this year in April. The third week in June. Iceberg, wow. It's a bit colder than here, and this hasn't been a good summer here. Not a great year was not a great year for photographing icebergs. This year, April and May are the best months for iceberg. Oh, great. Bev's got back to me on the years for Generation X, about 65 to 1980. Thanks for the shout out. You're more than welcome, Bev. I mean, go and have a look at their channel, please. Generation Exceptional. Obviously, the gentleman in me will suggest that Bev's birthday was much closer to the 1980 part than the 1965, of course. Which if she's a lot younger, that makes me a lot younger. That's good, yeah. I've knocked a bit of age off. Tommy M, oddly enough, seem to get more people that notice me if I'm only carrying a camera. If I'm wearing my backpack with the camera clips and harness on, people don't seem to care. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any logic to it, does it, Tommy? It seems to be, you'd think that if you had all the paraphernalia, you'd look even more so. Maybe it's just that sort of sweet spot in the middle of looking professional enough, but not fully professional. Maybe that's the thing. Because would professionals necessarily much gear out if they're wanting subversive photographs? Yeah, it's been difficult with all that's been going on. I've been very down, and that's something I'm going to come on to later on in the video, because I haven't done any videos for for about a fortnight, and I'll come to that later on in the video as to why that's been the case, and maybe where I need a change of direction that shortly. But yeah, Tommy's saying I guess I just look more serious if I have more gear with me. Yeah, does that mean you stop smiling? You don't smile when you're taking the photographs if you're more serious, possibly. Let's see, Bev's Newfoundland is one of the places I'd love to visit. My favourite band, I believe, comes from there. Darina Harvey Band. Never heard of them. You'll have to send me a link on Spotify for them, Bev. I never heard of Darina Harvey Band. What sort of music is it? Be interesting to hear. Howdy from the US. Again, we're from in the US. Nice small country, the US. It's only a little bit of landmass. Whereabouts in the US are you from? I'd love to know. We've already got one, Tommy M from Arizona. I must admit, I do enjoy going over to the United States. I find that it's such an amazing place to visit, because there is so vast and so changeable. You know, there's a little bit of everything in the world from when you go to the States. So yeah, back to the thing with the public photography. Yeah, the grab a lens video is still coming, but that's another thing that I'm going to release a video on, because I've got very few people actually respond to that. I need a few more responses. So if you have taken photographs and you'd like to just have them displayed, just send it to me on fourcountiesphotography@outlook.com. It's not going to be a pulling apart. It's not a critique of your photographs. It's just a collection of photographs where I can put your name on and let the world see them on your behalf. So if you'd like to do that, then send a few more. I didn't quite get enough to do them last time, but thanks for asking, because it really would be good. And there's a few that I'm sitting on, which the bad part is they're far better than the photographs that I take. I've started off something bad, because they're far better than the photographs that I take. Washington, good to see. Oh, Washington, yeah, I'd love to visit. You've got so much there with, with the seat of government and the seat of the military power in the United States is at Washington. Fabulous place to go to. I've got a friend who actually lives out Washington. Comes on his channel, Andy Stenton. So if you, I think he's out Washington way. So yes, I'd love to go out there. Jeffrey Kingston, good evening, Jeffrey. I tend to wear a high-vis jacket with a bag. Never had any problems, and people tend to move around you and sometimes say sorry for getting in the way. That's something I do have, I must admit. I do find that there's an awful lot of people, because obviously I'm highlighting something bad on my video. There is an awful lot of people who are very helpful. They do try not to get in your way. They try to move out the way. They are very good. So it is a small minority I'm on about, these awkward ones. The vast majority of people are absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I get that a lot with people, with just wanting to be good and part of things, and just to help you along. Anthony, hi Anthony. I've been using for the past 10 years an EM1 with a 1.8 premium primes and had a 16-20 canvas made. More than pleased with. That's going to a different subject. It's good actually, but let's diversify a little bit onto that. By premium primes, I'm taking that you're using several different primes. Which primes do you use? The problem with the 1.8 primes for me is they're not weather sealed. Please, OM system, do a new version of all your primes, the 17, the 12, the 45, the 75, all those sort of primes that you do, because they are fabulous lenses, but with weather sealing. Yeah, I do think that they are exceptional lenses. The little 1.8 premium primes, they really are exceptional lenses. They tend to be super sharp. My favourite of the lot, although I don't have one now, I had one for a little while, was the 75mm 1.8. Now that's actually a Sigma lens, but that was just incredible. Unfortunately, it was a focal length I don't tend to use a lot. It's a little bit too long for what I'm doing for the portrait side. The tiny little 45mm though is awesome. And to do 16x20, actually 16x20 I think is a very small print, but a canvas is great. You should get some incredible results on that. I've had a few conversations with people over the years about the idea of using Micro Four Thirds for large prints, and there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, Steve Onions, who has an absolutely fantastic channel. And if you haven't seen, he does a huge amount of really good photography work. Very, very knowledgeable guy. And a few years ago, he did a video about using Micro Four Thirds against full frame and doing some very large scale prints. And the results that he got, if you think Micro Four Thirds can't print big, think again. And remember, he was using a 20 megapixel sensor because they didn't have the 25 megapixels out at the time. You can do some huge prints, and the quality is absolutely superb. You know, with 20 megapixels, they say you can't print big, but you can. And even if even if you have a large print, you don't stand so close with a large print, that sort of pixelation. You should be standing at a reasonable distance to be able to see that properly. So Anthony, I'm not surprised that you're more than pleased with it. But let me know which primes you use, because as I say, I think the little the 1.8 primes are godsends in the Micro Four Thirds world. I really do. I love taking photographs with primes. I love the results that I get from primes because they're so the quality is just so high in them, because you've got less moving parts. You don't have a zoom mechanism. You're not trying to cater for, you know, be a jack of all trades and master of none. You, with them, they can concentrate on getting a really good image at that focal length and get the very best out of it, edge to edge, and you know, so really good on that. Does anybody out there use any of the faster primes, the 1.2? Because I'd be interested if you can notice a big difference on them. Yes, obviously you're going to get a bit better bokeh, but that's not something which I tend to really worry about. As I say, I've managed to get some really soft backgrounds with the 1.8s. But let me know if you're using some of the faster lenses and why you went for a faster one rather than the considerably more inexpensive 1.8s. Thanks, Anthony, for that one. Yeah, going back to the sort of history of the photography and things. When I used to go out and do the event photography, obviously I was doing, as I say, an awful lot of photographing, and I never got any hassle for that. You know, even if I was in civvies taking photographs and didn't have any sort of special markings on, because they were public events, I never really got any problems on that at all. And I used to get some great shots. Unfortunately, all the shots that I was doing on there, because I was working on behalf of the Royal Air Force, they're all what they call Crown copyright. So the state have the copyright. I can't show those photographs. But I got some really good shots, especially when they were doing athletics tournaments and things like that. If you get a chance to go off and do some of these field sports events, they can be really, really good places for taking photographs. I thoroughly enjoy them. So, once again, as I said, Bev just sort of said thanks for the plug on that. I do mean I go and see the Generation X YouTube page that she's got. Bev used to do audio blogs, blogs with people, and they were really, really good. And she's tried transferring them onto the YouTube. And we've had a couple of discussions. She's had a couple of videos which are worth watching as well, insofar as the difficulties of running a YouTube channel, because it's not as easy as it looks. The biggest problem is trying to get motivation, and also to try and get yourself accepted into the YouTube way of working. It all seems to be goes around this idea of the algorithm and trying to top this 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours a year to keep yourself monetized. And the problem that you have with that is it's very difficult for new YouTubers, new creators to become monetized. The whole system seems to work against you, because to get your videos seen by more people, to get up there, you really need to be popular, because they push the popular ones to get the advertising. They want the advertisers to advertise with you. And if you don't have a huge following, the advertisers don't like to buy in with that. Well, of course, YouTube themselves are needing the advertisers. They get their income from that. So they want the high scoring videos with the high subscriber counts, lots of likes and lots of views before they'll actually start pushing you hard. But to get yourself seen by people, you need YouTube to push you. And this is I think this, in fairness, is where Bev's got on, because she's got just less than 1,000 subscribers, and it can be very soul destroying, because especially Bev's production techniques are far better than mine. They really are far better than mine, far slicker and far more. There's a lot more work into it than I do, and when you've done all that work, it's very difficult to not have the returns on it. But at the same time, once you do get past that, it seems to be a nice upward slope on there. I don't think I'm ever going to get big, although I think I've got 11,800 subscribers now, and I love you all for it. Thank you. But yeah, just to try and get the channels up above that threshold to get monetized. And it's not necessarily about the money, but it's the fact that by getting up to those levels, it then gets pushed by YouTube so that more people can see your content, because the whole point of doing content is to be seen, is to get out there and get your message across. A couple more messages coming in from Anthony. In the film when shooting candid shots, we used to make practice up using asking permission first before submitting them, and often most people ask you to print pictures for me. Yeah, the hard part with that, I found, if I am shooting people outside, and I have done it, I don't particularly like doing it, but I do like some of the things. The problem is, as soon as you ask permission from somebody to take photos, they act differently. To try and get that real natural response, that natural facial response, that natural body language to come from them, really you need them not to be aware of you being there. So as soon as you ask permission to shoot somebody, you've lost that. Very rarely do you get somebody to go back to being totally natural, as if you're not there and allow you to shoot. The good thing is, and how I used to tackle this, I would take some photographs of them first, then go up and tell them I'd taken photographs and ask them if they were happy, because then I would delete some photographs if somebody didn't like them. But I used to go up and show them, and just as you say, quite often you get somebody say, can I have a print? These days they say, can you send me a copy? But yeah, you can get that happen. It's a difficult thing though, as to when and if you do actually ask permission. Martin Greenberg, good evening, Martin. How are you doing? I do street photography and don't want to blur the background. I use Lumix bodies, so I use a Lumix lenses to get the dual stabilization. F1.7 is as fast as I want. Yeah, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm not a great fan of super soft backgrounds, the super blurry bokeh. And I suppose a lot of this comes from when I was doing the school photographs. When I first got into school photography, we got given the challenge. The first school we went to, primary school, the head teacher had called myself and my work partner in and said to me, we've got these photographs back. None of the parents are happy with them. We had another photography company in. We've been told that you're good. Can you do the photographs? But they're all out of focus, the previous ones. And I got given an example of the photograph, and I looked and I said, actually, that's perfectly in focus. But what they'd done is, the photographers who'd been in before had obviously been watching YouTube videos on how to do this. And it's an easy trap to fall into, watching YouTube videos, because you'll be told something is a good technique, and then it becomes the technique which you have to use in a lot of people's eyes. And they'd obviously been told that you need super shallow depth of field, super tight bokeh, and a very fast lens. So what they'd done is, they'd probably got something like an f1.4. I know that they used a full frame camera, and basically they put the lens on. It was a nice fast lens, opened it wide up, did the shots, and of course the eye, the closest eye to the lens, it was the left eye, that would have been perfectly in focus. And as you looked at it, it was great. Unfortunately, the depth of field was so shallow that the tip of the nose and the earlobes were out of focus, as was most of the rest of the face and everything back. So parents didn't like this. Very artistic maybe, but they didn't like it. And what I found when I was shooting full frame, when I was shooting with the 5Ds and the 1D, I usually would be shooting between about f5.6 and f6.3. Even though it doesn't give you a shallower depth of field, it did get the whole face in. And also when I was doing cadets, especially when I had a flag in the background as, squadron standard and things, I wanted that to be reasonably in focus, not totally blurry, because you wanted to be able to see the squadron crest and things. So f6.3 was quite often what I'd be shooting to do portrait work on an 85mm lens. Now that equates to that equates probably to the 45mm on the Micro Four Thirds, shooting at about about f2.8 to f4. So probably about about f4, say. F2.8 to f4 would be given a similar sort of depth of field at 45mm. So really, I don't go for super shallow depth of field. And I do agree with you. The idea of super shallow depth of field, f1.7 is more than fast enough and probably still too blurry for me. Anthony, people should feel less uncomfortable with someone shooting a picture with a proper camera and an iPhone. Most problems caused by people using their cell phones. At parties, compromising situations, absolutely. I do find that using an iPhone can be very sordid almost at times. And certainly it's much easier to put a photograph up onto social media. I can stream a photo live as I take it straight onto social media. I can't do that with my camera. If I do, it's very, very difficult. So the idea of a normal type camera doesn't mean that it's easy to get onto the social media. And as you say, compromising situations at parties, especially Christmas parties, we've all heard of the horror stories that you can get from that. So yes, absolutely on that one. Eric, good evening, Eric. Eric Lundquist. How real feel in Washington? Oh, right. 40 degrees in Washington. Wow, that's warm. By far the hottest summer to date. Almost every day since July 1st is over 100. Yeah, that's getting on in the summer months. You wouldn't think that from Washington, but Washington has such extremes because you'll have some really severe winters as well. So yeah, fabulous. Must be. I don't know if you're enjoying it over there. In the UK at the moment, we've had probably one of the worst summers we've had for years. Had a few warm days last week, but generally it's been pretty poor. Anthony, people not taking enough care when taking pictures with iPhone, posting photographs to Facebook. Yep. I'm less worried about someone who's using a real camera. I am. I do tend to be one of these people who will go because I'm a boring anorak and just want to know what the camera is. Or I'll be sitting there giving strange looks at people trying to work out. Oh, is that a Canon? Which one is it? Is that an 80D or whatever it is? I'm a real anorak. I shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I think it's been an interesting time, and as I say, the number of comments I got on that video was outstanding. It really was. And it's not a UK problem either. One of the things that is probably worth pointing out though is that the laws are different around the world. Now I was doing it from a UK perspective, and now please do not take anything I'm going to say on this channel, but especially in the next few minutes, don't take this as gospel or as legal advice, because it isn't. This is opinion. But as far as I understand, the UK law is different to quite a few laws in Europe insofar as we have legislation through exception. So in other words, what I mean by that is, as a general rule, this is how I read it, you can do anything you want in the UK unless there's a law or a legislation against it. Now obviously we have the Magna Carta, which sets down English law as opposed to legislation. Pretty straightforward. You can't cause harm to other people, you can't steal from other people, all those sort of the basic things that we get almost from the commandments. But when it comes to general legislation, pretty much I can do anything unless there's a law which says that I can't. And that goes to photography. People say about the photography laws in the UK. There's actually very few photography laws. And people say, well, quote me the law that says that you can take a photograph. There isn't one as such. We don't have a law which says you are enabled to take a photograph. We do have some laws which says that you can't take photographs in certain places. The Official Secrets Act, for instance, comes into places. and there's some which work in conjunction with other laws. So I can take a photograph of somebody's personal house. It's not illegal to do that if I'm doing it from a public area. The problem is, if I start being intrusive, I can get into voyeurism, which is a law in itself. I can get into harassment if I do it on multiple occasions. If they feel that I am causing a physical or a perceived physical threat, then obviously that comes into it. But as a general rule, there's nothing to stop me. From a legal point of view, I can take photographs of anybody in the street of any age. There is nothing in law which says you can't take photographs of children. Now, we'll come into what's legal and moral or ethical in that separately. But basically, on those sort of things, if it's in a public place, I can pretty much take a photograph of anything. And if somebody puts a sign up saying you can't, then it starts contravening things like Article 10 of the the Human Rights Act. The European, can't remember their thing, but anyway, my human rights are covered by European legislation, which is still adopted in the UK, and that gives me freedom of expression. So I can use my camera, and that includes drones and video cameras and still cameras to do that. Obviously, as I say, there's caveats on it. So as a general rule, I can do that. Insofar as taking photographs in private property, well, in the UK, we have different trespass laws to what you have in the States. It's trespass form is not a criminal act. It is a civil matter. And there's actually nothing stops you taking photographs on private land, because land can be private but publicly accessible. And if it's publicly accessible, then it comes under what your public rights are. You can be asked to leave. You can be told that you're trespassing, asked to leave land. And if you don't then leave that land, then it's you get into aggravated. And as I say, please, I'm not giving legal advice. Do not take this as being legal advice at all. But it's my interpretation of things. So you can do those things. There are certain places where there's bylaws. If there is a bylaw on it, for instance, National Trust land, there's bylaws against taking photographs. And there's also a lot of places, museums and things, where you're restricted from using flash or artificial light. And sometimes when you've got something, artifacts which can be hundreds of thousands of years old, the light can affect them. So that's the reason for that one. Tripods, generally, the use of tripods can be seen as causing obstruction, which is why they have that. But it comes into what's legally and morally or ethically correct, because I'm very much insofar as having and retaining my legal rights. I don't want to be giving up my rights. I want to keep my freedoms. But there's also an ethical part. If you start sticking the camera into somebody's face, you could be there taking photographs and following around the town and things. If you're not at the point of harassment on that, then yeah, legally I could be correct, but ethically and morally, am I? No. And I think this is where the difficulty comes in. And I don't think most photographers want to cross that line. The vast majority of photographers, I don't think, would be happy crossing that ethical and moral line to go too far. As I say, you can take photographs of children in the UK. There's nothing to stop you. If it's in a public place, then you can. Whether you'd want to, or whether you would feel comfortable doing that, or whether you would feel it was morally or ethically right to do that, is a different matter. I might have the freedom legally to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean I've got the freedom to do it from an ethical point of view. So I think an awful lot comes into there, and it's where those lines blur. But also, again, if somebody, as I've said before, if somebody comes up and says, were you taking photographs of the kids, and can I ask you why? And, and if I was to say, no, I wasn't taking photographs of the kids, I was taking photographs of whatever, they just happened to be at the edges of it. Those are the sort of conversations I'm more than happy with. Somebody coming up and telling me, verbally abusing me, to tell me that I shouldn't be doing something which I've got a right to do, that's when it gets different. So it's an interesting thing. Again, let me know how you feel about that, the difference between legal and... where are we? We just Anthony. Thank you, Anthony, about somebody using a real camera. Great Vanzini. Hi, Great Vanzini. Because I haven't been on one of these live streams for a little while. I've missed some of the names. It's nice to see you. I do see you popping up on Rob Trex and videos every so often. So I do actually see you. So nice to see you on the channel again. I've been asked a few times not to take a shot. Yeah. How did you get on with that? What were the circumstances behind that, and what did you do? Because I think that's as important as anything else. I've been asked not to take shots before, and I've reacted differently on different occasions. And again, it's been how they've approached me, because although I tend to try and be quite nice, I'm also not a pushover. If somebody comes aggressively to me, I'll aggressively defend myself. I won't aggressively do it, but I'll certainly assertively do it. Unless they become physically aggressive with me, then I'll defend myself. But generally, if you get to that point, it's too late. But usually if somebody comes up quite positively and quite pleasantly to me, I just don't see the point of creating hassle when it's not needed. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know, what have you done on that? Most times that I've been asked not to, they've had a reasonable reason. They've approached me right, and I've just sort of said, yeah, I was taking photographs in that general area. I wasn't really wanting to do photographs of you or whatever it was. So let's have a look underneath Great Vanzini. Thank you very much for being on the channel again tonight. My eyesight's going, by the way, because I'm on the mobile phone for the signal down that I'm using. So I haven't got the pop-out questions tonight, because as soon as I put that on, it just slowed the whole bandwidth down, because it's going off to an external server. So I'm looking on the side of the screen, and I'm getting old. Galedian, is that? I'm not sure what the name is. I apologise if I get the name wrong. Don't care much about other people's opinions, as long as I'm not doing anything illegal. Usually people only ask if I'm a photographer, or how long I've been shooting. I haven't been in trouble. Yeah, I think a lot of it is the way that you put yourself up as well. I think if you don't put yourself out too much as being aggressive to yourself, or pushy into people's faces, I think you do get left alone quite a lot. Again, the reason I did that video is because generally I wasn't doing anything. In fact, as I say, certainly on the last occasion, I hadn't even taken a photograph. When the Karen came over and started shouting at me about being a pervert and taking photographs of kids, I hadn't even taken one. There was nobody around, and she was some distance away, so it wasn't even as if I was getting her. But yeah, I think a lot of it is how you actually purport yourself to the public. But it's interesting. Yeah, I tend to not worry too much about people's opinions on things. I work on the thing that I don't give offence, but I don't give offence. And I certainly don't go out of my way to create issues. So if somebody does get a little bit upset by it, it's usually their doing rather than mine. Anthony, I think you misunderstood me. Get permission to use the photos. Ah, right. So it's basically the way that I said I do it. Yeah, I had misunderstood you. Get permission to use the photos you're already taking before posting them or submitting them. Yeah, I would do that if I was, if they were the feature of the photograph, I certainly would go to them first and try and get permission, because they just don't. My morals say that it's probably wrong to do that. If they're incidental in the picture, I probably wouldn't. But certainly if they're part of the main part of the photograph, then I would. Yeah, but certainly I did misunderstand you on that one, and totally agree with you. Don't photograph children in public places. Don't normally photograph people with intellectual disabilities. No problem so far. As I say, I used to actually get paid to photograph children, primary school children and teenagers and things. So I did photograph them. It's not something I wanted to go and photograph on the street, though. And as I say, most times I don't like photographing people on the street. I tend to find that if I'm taking a street photo, a street scene, the idea of somebody standing there with a silly grin on their face and the camera spoils the photo. I'd much rather, if I have people in, I usually tend to have it so that I've got somebody silhouetted. I've maybe got somebody there just to show size difference, if you like. If something is particularly big, if you've got somebody beside it to show scale, I'll tend to get people in shots. But I actually tend to like an awful lot of shots where people are walking away from me in there, and again, just to give to give an atmosphere rather than necessarily see features. And as I say, children just don't interest me to take photographs of. If I was being paid to do it, or if I was doing it as a role, like I was with the air cadets, or as I was in the schools, that's different. You know, that was my job to do that. But the idea, it's never been something I particularly well, they just don't interest me. I'll be quite honest. Having said that, I used to get photographs when I was a child in the 60s and 70s beach, and you'd just be taking photographs. And I think the big problem with the modern world compared to the previous world is people didn't think bad. Photographers, you went down there to capture a scene on a beach, not to capture the actual people in there necessarily, but the people were part of that scene. And I think without that, the world's going to be poorer. There's a lot of pictures from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, 60s, again up the 70s, where you've got all these scenes where people are there. You can see the fashions, you can see the way that people were. You can see what society was. And I think at the moment, what will happen, I think when we look back in the next 20, 30 years back, we're going to look at an awful lot of places which seem devoid of people, which isn't the case. Let's have a look. Don't forget Gravanzini. They were all public events, so I explain. I'm taking shots. They may want to stay behind me. Yeah, that's quite often what I do as well. I'll just let them know what's going on. So if it was a Pride Day, Christmas Pride, Trump rally, or Vets Parade too, yeah. I find if I'm doing something like an event, if you're taking a photograph of an event, all those things you just sort of said there, to me, that is people. So that's a different line I draw. I'd be quite happy taking photographs, and I'd be very upset if people did challenge me, although I have had that happen. But you do tend to think, well, if you're coming outside to a public event, there will be people taking photographs. Robert, hi Robert. Is that Varna? Yeah, Robert here. Nice to see you. Give up photography altogether. Problem solved. You can't give up photography. Although, as I'll come to in a few moments, yeah, I can understand why possibly you would. But yeah, the problem is when you're out there and taking photographs in a public sort of thing. I found when I got challenged by this woman, I just felt so knocked out. I had the wind taken out my sails altogether. I felt very disillusioned. And that really caused me a few problems insofar as, do I carry on taking photographs? I just didn't want to. I felt angry because nobody wants to be seen as something they're not. I did wonder then, you get in the back of your mind, does everybody think that the same way? Does everybody think that I'm something weird because I'm taking photographs in the street? So I can understand why you would give up. Anthony, cell phone photos taken by non-photographer, teens at parties and other private functions, pictures being posted on Facebook without anybody's permission is what's caused the problem. I think it certainly made the problem worse. I really do think it's made the problem a lot worse, Anthony. But I think the problem goes back before that. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and one of the turning points for them was when the Princess of Wales, Lady Di, was killed in the tunnel in France in the car. And there was a big thing about the paparazzi then chasing her through the tunnel and causing the speeding. And, you know, there's lots of conjecture as to what actually happened. But the paparazzi was certainly part of it. And I think the gutter press, in my opinion, the gutter press have a lot to answer for. My turning point was actually about 10 years before that. In December 1988, I had and it wasn't to do with still photography, it's to do with news, video photography. I'm going to be careful because if you say the wrong words, YouTube will pull it. So there was an attack on a Pan Am aircraft over Lockerbie in December 1988, where it had been attacked, shall we say. And basically on that, there'd been a lot of loss of life in the aircraft. Obviously, everybody killed on there. And also, part of it had landed on a street in Lockerbie in Scotland. And I was in the Air Force at the time. And I was on duty, just finishing a day shift. And we were called to go up there on 21st of December 1988 it was. And we were called to go up there and go just to see what we could do to help. I ended up spending the next 48 hours walking through fields, looking for things and people, should we say. Again, I'm trying to be very careful on my words, but it was quite horrendous. And on the night we arrived up there, we were encountered by press. Now, in those days, I had the big video cameras. This was late in the 80s. And you had the mercenary press who were the news for money, and they had magnetic signs, you know, so you might get Channel 9 News Australia on the side of a camera, Scotland, and this camera would be pushed in your face. And the way that they did the job was horrendous. It really was incredibly bad. I have never been so appalled in my life. And that was a turning point for me insofar as seeing people with cameras from a different light. And I think I think the turning point was a lot earlier than social media. However, social media has spread it like you, and it's shown the bad side of people as well as the good side. I know when I was with a youth organisation, we had problems about a thing called Snapchat, where youngsters would be photographing things you shouldn't photograph and sending them to other people, and using this, which was quite horrendous, and it's totally uncontrollable. And that really bothered me on that one. So yeah, it's interesting when you see that. Certainly the social media has made things a lot worse, but I don't think it was the beginning of it. Where are we here? Joe Carey. Hi Joe, how are you doing? I don't know if I've see you on here. Let me know where you're from. If you haven't let me know where you're from on here, drop me a line to know where you're from. I am so fascinated by knowing where people are from in the world when you're on this. I mean, I'm some overweight Geordie sitting in his back room in a house in Brampton in northwest England, right beside the Scottish border. Yet I've got people in Arizona and who are live on there. Great chatting. So Joe, let me know where you're from, if you would. I've been approached to see why I'm photographing people. I stay friendly and offer to share. I don't offer to delete. No, I never offer to delete. I think if I'd realised I was causing a problem with it, I would delete it. It's on mine, and if they're done from public place, then I have a right to keep them. They're my copyright. But yeah, I think a lot of it is common sense, how you deal with people. I think an awful lot of it is just, as I say, their approach and your approach. But yeah, if you stay friendly, so long as they start off friendly, as I say, I'm no pushover. If somebody comes up to me in my face and starts shouting at me, they'll get short, sharp shrift on the way back. But generally, if somebody comes up in a pleasant way, maybe a little bit assertive themselves, I'm quite happy with assertive people because it's a good way to get through that. But yeah, I tend to stay friendly. I usually show photographs because rarely am I doing anything wrong. And even if it does have somebody in, you can usually say, well, I took a photograph. Yeah, you're in it, and it's in a really good photograph. And I would have come over and seen you anyway and let you see it. So I think a lot of that is to do with your approach to them. Bev, Generation Exceptional. It's sad we can't take photos of our own kids playing in case we catch other people in the photo. Well, again, legally, we can. Again, with both the organisations I was press officer with, because although it was Rotary, who tend to be older, we used to do an awful lot of youngsters. I don't have the photograph that I can put up here. I've got a fantastic photograph which got into the local news of, we used to run a technology tournament where there would be an engineering task set up, and we give some materials to these kids. They're all teenage, key stage 3, 4 and 5, which is sort of 13, 14, 15 and 15, 16-year-olds, and then prove that it worked and things. Really, really good. We used to have to get photographic permission for them, but by doing that we got some really, really good shots. But the fact that we used to do that, it was the schools making us do that from a safeguarding point of view. Our insurance company made us do it from Rotary's point of view. But from a legal point of view, technically, we don't need to. We weren't taking individual photographs in of one off to the side, if you know what I mean by that. These were all in public areas with lots of people. But yeah, I know what you mean. But I do feel that if my granddaughter on the beach or something, we'd just been to Edinburgh for a few days in the caravan, and my granddaughter came up to us and had beaches, came up with us. We had beaches. And the idea that I can't take photographs of my own granddaughter on the beach because someone else might be in the shot, I find that just no, I don't accept. I'll take photographs of my granddaughter enjoying herself to get those memories which I'll treasure for the rest of my life. And I'm sorry, the rest are incidental. But it is a difficult one, isn't it, Bev? You have to start thinking before you do anything, rather than just enjoying the moment. Other people's kids. I mean, yes, I knew what you meant by that one. Who was Seraphin? Hello, how was Seraphin? Good to see you. Like I've seen the great Vanzini. I've seen your name will come up on a few other live streams, but I haven't done one for a couple of months, so it's really nice to see you back online as well. There's certain names come up regularly, and you just become sort of friends with these people. It's really good. So really good to see you. Just wonder where some of you live. They have such problems with people while out photographing. 15 years of walking around Orlando, never had these issues. Well, as I say, I'm in a small city in northwest England. Very cosmopolitan, shall we say. So got that had on the main video. Say I've had over 32,000 or 33,000 views on that, which is really good for me. It does tend to happen all over the place, but one of the things which does seem to come out is if you're in somewhere, Orlando is a prime example, excuse me, where you have a lot of tourism, where you have an awful lot of tourists there. It seems that the tourists don't get bothered. It seems that they're much more used to camera around the place. And Orlando, is that where you're from, is it? I'm jealous because I love Orlando. I've been to Orlando a few times, and I love Orlando. I am now jealous of you, officially. Never mind. In Orlando, when I've been there, I could have taken the camera just about anywhere because it is very much a tourist area. They travel from all over the world to see there. I think it does tend to be the more rural areas, the less cosmopolitan from you. I was in your lovely part of the world last week. Oh, you should have dropped me in my. Although I wasn't here last week, I was up in the lovely part of Edinburgh, County Antrim. I'm going to be going across Ireland at some point because I'm partway through an Irish citizenship. I put a video about it because I'm really enjoying this, and I can't wait to get across to Ireland. Never been across on the island of Ireland, and I'm really looking to going across there because my maternal grandmother was born over there. There's family I've got over there, and not as I was saying at Ballina, I believe that's the correct pronunciation. Now I got a lot of hassle on that one. Please, if I got a lot of hassle on that one. Please, if I got it wrong, don't be too hard on me. But I want to get across there. County Mayo, she was from, and I want to get across there. So I'm really looking forward to getting across to Ireland, and County Antrim would be great to go through. I'm going to be driving across there. But it's one of the first things when I do get my Irish citizenship through, my Irish passport. I want to go across there as an Irishman. I want to go across to Ireland as an Irishman and visit my family because I think it'd be absolutely fabulous. So, yeah, really good to see you there. But if ever you come back to anywhere near the Lake District, give me a shout. I'll have a meet up and a cup of coffee. I love meeting up with viewers of this channel. I've met up with quite a few. Keith Addison I met in Cyprus and had a nice cup of coffee and a chat with him. And I've bumped into people at all sorts of places. So if you'd like to be where I am, give me a shout. I'd love to meet up with you. Tommy M, have to leave. Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for being part of this tonight. Really appreciate it. Hope to catch a future live stream. Cheers. Thank you, Tommy. If you're still on, or if you get the chance to watch this, if you're gone, hang on. It says ads are coming up in 53 seconds, so I'm going to skip the ads. You don't want to be watching ads. So hopefully that will save you having to go through them again. Yeah, ads skip. That's good. What was I saying? YouTube live streams I'm going to try and do on Tuesday nights if I do. I don't want to do Thursdays, and as I said, there's a few names that I got on here which have been on mine quite a lot, but I don't know if they also go on to Robin's and also go on to other live streams that we have on Sundays. So I'm going to try avoid the Thursdays and Sundays because, let's face it, if you sat through a couple of hours of one person's live stream, you don't want to be doing it for a second person's on the same day. It's a little bit unfair on you. So yes, I'm going to be trying to do mine. If I do them, I'm going to aim for about once a month if I can. Trouble is, I'm quite often out of the UK or out my home area. So if I can, then I certainly shall on that. But thanks, Tommy. Thanks for being part of it. I really do appreciate it. April. Hi, April. How are you doing? Yeah. Have you ever tried pet photography? Considered as a side job? Yes, I did. When I set the business up the second time, when I set it up in the early 2010s, when I set up the portrait and commercial side, I wanted to get back into photography. I'd done wedding photography in the 80s. I didn't enjoy it. I'd done some portrait work, which I did enjoy. I'd already had the two stints, or one of the two stints, the press officer and doing press photo work. I really did enjoy actually taking photographs of events and doing the press for an organisation. As I say, it was with the Air Cadets, all teenagers. It's an interesting age when you get teenagers, because the teenagers are active. They get involved in all sorts, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. One of the best photograph sessions I ever did was of a field sports, and when the kids are doing the high jump. By the time they get to sort of mid-teens, they're athletically fit and they're doing things like that. And you can get some fantastic photographs of them doing high jump and things. I'll try and sort some of those photos out if I can find any which aren't Crown copyright. But yeah, when I first got into it, I started doing some dogs, some pet photography. And I was put off actually by a guy. If you see his channel, I haven't seen him for a long time, but his channel name was The Lone Shooter. And he did some phenomenal photographs of horses, equine photography. I didn't get into doing that, but when I looked at what his work was, I just gave up, because he was absolutely incredible. But yes, I used to do a lot of dog photography. The problem I found is I just did some really good results. I'd sell into in my physical location in Cumbria, which was a shame. If I'd wanted to go off and do things like cattle, cows, there's an awful lot of show cows and show cattle and things around the place. Probably could have done something on that, but it was sporadic in when you'd have those opportunities. Then you could do that. The problem is there was an awful lot of the photographers already well established doing it. So yeah, if you can do it, it's really rewarding. If you like animals, you gotta love animals. You can't do that without an appreciation of animals, and you've got to be able to communicate with animals. You can't just take a photograph. You've got to be able to understand how an animal works. One of the tips I had was, if you're going to take a photograph of a dog, you want to almost have them with that smiley face on, with the teeth showing and the mouth slightly open. Dogs don't normally have that at rest. So what you used to do is take the dog for a fast walk up and down the pavement, 3 or 4 times over a 20-meter stretch, and then stop and try and take the photograph, because at that point they start panting, and as soon as they start panting, they get the mouth open. So it's these little tricks which you can do, which really make an interesting photograph. So yeah, if you can do it, then do it. I've seen some of the stuff you do with the squirrels and things. They're great, but that's a different sort of pet photography, because they're not really pets. But yeah, if you've got a market to sell them into, April, go for it. If it's just for your own pleasure, then do it. Bev, my granddaughter was taking her brownie promise, but the organisers banned us taking photographs. Memory lost. Yeah. What do I say? I mean, that's one of the things. I've got some photographs from when I was an air cadet, because I was shot as an air cadet when I was 13, and in those days we didn't have these problems. We had, my father was one of the staff, civilian staff with the air cadets, when I was just a 13, 14-year-old, and taking photographs of me in uniform and at events, and they are treasured. I don't have too many of those photographs. In fact, there's some photographs for you on, Bev, where you came along to some of the events on that, when we used to go to Paderborn and things. We had a farmhouse called Paderborn, which is in Cumbria, not too far away from here, where we do adventure training and hiking, and we had and those things. And nobody batted an eyelid. You took photographs in those days because it was remembering an event. So yes, I do really feel for you, and it's so sad when that's the case. Great Vanzini photos. Hello, who is Seraphin? Fellow trekker. Oregon in the States. Yeah. That's obviously between next time you're in Orlando, hit me up. I can be a tour guide for it. I'd love that. I would love that. I haven't been to Orlando I haven't been for 11 years. When it was my 25th wedding anniversary, we went across to Florida, and we stayed in a hotel just off downtown Disney, on Lake Buena Vista. But I was getting into Orlando a lot, because we hired a car, as usual you do up there. And I like Orlando. I enjoy going into Orlando. I find it's a great place to go to. In fact, that whole central Florida belt I really enjoy. Been there a few times. The first time I went there, didn't. I think it was just because it was so different to what I was used to. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if ever we do come back to Orlando, I would love to take you up on that offer. I'd be a pain in the backside though. You'd be taking me all over the place. Grid Vanzini offered to try and take a dog or two in your videos. Do you actually do you have a channel, Grid Vanzini? Because I haven't seen this. I'm gonna have a look at you. I can't do it at the minute, but if you put videos up there, I'll have a look. I do think I'd have subscribed to your channel in the past, but I haven't looked at it for a while. So if I have, then great. But let me know if you definitely do have a channel. So if so, then I'll go on. And if I haven't subscribed, I certainly shall. Anthony, some of the best times to see Arctic pack ice and seals, icebergs, Great Northern Peninsula of Newfoundland and Labrador. It's in April to early May. Most tourists are. Yeah, I mean, we've just been on about Washington being 40 degrees, and now we're talking about icebergs. And I said about this fascination of the fact that you got people from all over the world. It just says it. I am stunned by where people are. And Bev said before she'd love to go to Newfoundland. I really would, and as I say, I the Air Force across there, and so gutted at the fact that I couldn't get across. Anthony, April Newfoundland can be more like winter to most people outside the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. It all sounds like winter to me, and we have some bad winters over here, but that does sound like cold winter. But to see icebergs, I mean, we don't get icebergs around the UK coast, so to see an iceberg must be just the most amazing thing. And considering the fact that that icebergs are huge, massive, great big things generally, and you're only seeing the tip of it. I mean, the thing at the tip of the iceberg, because most of it's underwater. Awesome. We've got an amazing planet and amazing sights. You know, I said before about visiting the States. You've got a little bit of everything over there on the North American continent. You know, so you got the whole of the whole of Canada and the whole of the USA and things on that, and into Mexico. You've just got a little bit of everything, and some of it is massive little bits. You know, you've got Great Lakes, and you've got, you know, Grand Canyons and all sorts of things. Wow, it's mind blowing. We really live on a phenomenally interesting planet. Bev, great exception. You did my first. I did do your first wedding photos. Black and white, if I remember right. Then the process has lost all. Yeah, because I actually. Oh goodness, yeah. That's a long time. That was your first. That was, yeah. Wow. First wedding photos. Yeah, that's a long time ago. When was that? Was that about 85, 84, 85, somewhere around about then? Yeah. Just slideshows of local events, Great Fanzine. Yeah, I think, yeah, I do remember seeing them up on there. I'll have to have another look. Now, Bev's just said about that. I'm going to divert a little bit. I did say about Bev's channel, as I say, great, Generation Exceptional. Please look as I'm doing this. Go away from my channel if you really want to, but go and have a look for Bev's channel. Please subscribe, give her a like, give her, you know, share them out, because it really is good on that. But I'm hoping Bev's not going to take exception to the fact that what I'm going to say here, but I know she's just gone through a difficult time trying to get a head round the idea of what's behind a YouTube video. And I haven't done a video, and I had a good chat with Bev about things. We have a different viewpoint. I enjoyed discussing things, Bev, because sometimes she opens my eyes to some things I haven't seen. But in the last couple of weeks, have just lost my mojo. I really haven't. I've said this a few times, but not just for making videos, but for taking photographs. And somebody before said that they just had a way around it, stop taking photos. And I have done a similar thing. I went up to Edinburgh last week. I took my G100, I took my GX8. I'm finding the GX8 as the camera which I'm taking for still and using it. It's not the newest camera, but it's just nice. But I was very, very... I found it a struggle to take my camera out and take photos. Now, I don't know if some of this was to do with what we've been talking about, where people are a little bit sensitive. But I just found it was difficult to get motivated to take my camera out to take stills. But I also got to the point where I've been looking back through some of my videos and I realised that I needed to do a new video. I'd done this photography and that was straight out heartfelt, really meant what I was doing behind it. And I don't know if it comes over in the video, but when I get something where it comes from me personally, they tend to be the better videos, because it's me saying. But I've got a video I've got to do of a re-review of a light. Now the light is fantastic. The light is awesome. It's great. I will be doing that again. Some reason the video disappeared from YouTube. There was a sponsored video. It disappeared from YouTube, so I've got to do a repeat of that one. And you'll be seeing that soon. But to try and get the motivation to put the video together to do that has been hell. And the thing of trying to do a video, I had nothing to say. And I think it's be creative when you actually haven't got any, pulling things out just for the sake of it. You start saying, oh, I'll do another review. I did the last one I did was 8 reasons to stick with Micro Four Thirds or something like that. And as I was doing that, I meant what I was saying, but it did feel a little bit, I've covered this ground before. And sometimes I feel that I'm almost doing things to hit that algorithm. And I know Bev's had this problem recently as well, doing things to hit the algorithm. But I feel guilty about not putting the video out regularly. So I hope if you've been like a hole in the head probably, but if you have been missing me on this, I hope you don't take offense at the fact that I haven't been online, because I just think it's a little bit insulting to you for me just to be regurgitating rubbish for the sake of creating a video. I'd rather say something pertinent, because I actually value all the subscribers, all the viewers, because the majority of my viewers aren't subscribers. But all the people on there, I do feel that I'd rather say something from the heart. I'd rather say nothing at all if it doesn't come from the heart, if that makes sense. So just to do a review on something, which are lovely filters. Again, I'm going to do a review, but I just haven't been driven to do that because I couldn't think of anything particularly heartfelt to say about it. I will. They'll come back. And I find that's the same thing with doing this re-review of the I know it needs to go back up again because contractually it needs to. But there's only so much you can say about light. It's light. It's nicely balanced. It doesn't fade and all those sort of things, and it does what I want to do. You put your modifiers onto it and it does exactly what it says on the tin. And I'm finding about cameras as well. There is very little to say about cameras. The majority of cameras and lenses on the market now, I mean, you actually, while you're on, please, if you can think of a bad camera or a bad lens, please let me know there. Put a comment now if you can think of a bad camera or a bad lens on the market now, because I really struggle to. About the works 25mm, which can be have a bit of focus shift in it. But it's not a bad lens, and especially for the price, it's a superb little lens for the price. So let me know if you can think of anything. Don't see it. And when you're doing something, you're trying to pull something bad just for the sake of it, it does make me feel a little bit of a fraud. But there again, if I hold the camera up and say, this is brilliant, everything it says in the box works, and it's got everything I said about the last camera and a touch more, what do I say? Let me know in the comments. I'd really love to know what you think on that. How we're doing time-wise. We've done well over an hour. I'm gonna have to cut this short soon. Anthony, use my camera in conditions as cold as minus 35 Celsius with no issues. It's an older EM1. Just said about good equipment. The EM1 Mark 1 came out, I think, in 2012 or 2013. I'm open to correction on that one because I can't look on this. And I still have one next door. I've got none of my cameras here. I decided I wasn't going to be showing cameras but the EM1, my EM1 Mark 1 is beaten to hell. It really is, and it just keeps on working. And the fact that it works at minus 35 Celsius, that's absolutely amazing, because I can also take my EM1 Mark 1 out in Cyprus in the high 30s, mid 40s even, and it'll carry on working. They are just superb. And again, most cameras, most of the not even the Pro line cameras, I'm sure if you took an AM10 out, to those conditions, it would work. I really do believe if you took an EM10 out of those conditions, it would work. So just, I've got something I'm going to talk about in a second. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. If it's a Mark 1, if it's a Mark 2, again, I did a video about the Mark 2 recently, and it's still probably one of the best cameras on the market insofar as what it does. Great Vanzini, often lose my photo module. Yeah. And there's no I don't know if you think about this, there's usually no logical reasons why. Then I switch over to my music channel for a while. Oh, have you got a music channel? Ooh, right. What's the link to your music channel, Great Vanzini? Please put it down there. I have a music channel, but I haven't really done much with it. I keep on putting the link at the end of my videos, and I really need to do something. And I'm also thinking about doing another channel on leadership and motivation. I had a company when I first was made redundant from the enterprise center I used to run, where I set a company up to do motivational leadership and teamwork and skills. And that's what I teach as a part-time job to cadets now, because I've just been doing a course on that. So I might do some on that one. And again, looking at Bev's videos from what she was doing, she's done an awful lot of very, very good quality training videos and motivational videos and things. And I look at the style that she's been doing, and that sort of encouraged me to get into something else. So yeah, I'll have a look for your music channel. April would be fun to see some photo walks. I've had a problem with photo walks. I like those types of videos, seeing the surroundings and the thought behind photo is interesting. Yeah, I really need to do some more, for more than just a photography reason. I went to Cyprus in November, if you remember, got my teeth fixed, so I can smile. But I got badly bitten by mosquitoes all around my lower legs and feet. Got cellulitis in both lower legs. I've also been diagnosed type 2 diabetes. So I have water retention problems in my legs. Now they're excuses, and so don't get me wrong, they're excuses, but it's sort of put me off going out walking. And I think one of the things I used to enjoy with the walk, I don't like particularly going out doing walks, but the photography used to be a catalyst to go out. But I think what's gone on with my legs, has been times I just couldn't stand up and couldn't walk properly. And the idea of trekking away for the times that I used to put me off, but I really need to do something. The weights come on, I really dislike. Maybe that's why I'm getting down as well, because I just piled weight on and things. So yeah, maybe I do need to do the photo walks and stop using some of the excuses as to why not to do them. So thank you, April. That may be a bit of a catalyst for me. Good Vanzine, have a hankering for used EM1, and I don't know why. What do you use at the moment, by the way? The EM1 Mark 1 has problems. It's not as well appointed as EM1 Mark 2. There's a lot of things it can't do. It doesn't have some of the features EM1 Mark II. But on its own, it's still a phenomenal camera. It has a flip-up screen rather than a tilt-swivel screen. Some still photographers prefer that. Video-wise, pretty poor. It wasn't designed for video in the first place. I'm just seeing Joe Carey's done a thing about the firmware updates for the EM1 are phenomenal. Your rear wheel is failing. Oh, yeah, I have that problem on the GX8 as well. He's right. I think like, what is it on the EM1 Mark 1? Is it 4.6 or something for the firmware update? And when they've done the big update, it changed the camera. It really did change the camera, always for the better. If you're going for an EM1 Mark II, that to me is just about ideal if you're buying a second-hand EM1 to get into it. I know why it's worth doing, because they're just damn good cameras. But let me know what you're shooting at the minute, Great Vanzini, because I'd be interested to know that. From that, I would suggest that you possibly a Lumix shooter, if you're shooting Micro Four Thirds. And since you're on most of the Micro Four Thirds channels, I think you probably are. But yeah, it's certainly worth trying an EM1 Mark 1. You can pick them up for peanuts. I've had a few conversations with people about buying and getting into photography and buying a camera, and quite often now I say, don't buy a lower range camera, and buy a used EM1 Mark 1, because it is still a professional level camera. it's still got some phenomenal results. And if you pair those up, the 12 to 40 millimeter f2.8 Pro lens came out to match that camera, and it was a superb match. And as Joe says, the firmware updates have transformed that camera. The EM1 Mark II has a lot of firmware updates, and that is actually quite a good change what it can do. And it is a good camera. That has a tilt swivel screen, so it flips out the side. Again, some of the still photographers don't like that so much, but it did make video photography a lot easier. But the cameras themselves are solidly built, and they're really, really good. So let me know. Let's know what you're using, the Great Vanzini. At the moment, I'd be interested to know on that one. I didn't bring a camera in with me tonight, but I did have these. Just saw these on the shelf. A couple of filters, and these are from my... I don't know why I'm saying this. It was just because I saw them, but a couple of circular polarizer, and I like circular polarizers. But these are from my full frame and APS-C days, and a 77mm and a 67mm. I've got nothing to use them on. The 67mm I think is about the same size as goes onto the front of the Lumix Leica 100 to 400, and that's the smaller one of the two. But it just seems so odd that the small one is probably about the biggest that we've got, the smallest that we've got for the Micro Four Thirds. It just shows how small Micro Four Thirds can be when the normal lenses are... I can't use the filters on them. Pen F EM5. Oh, you are an Olympus shooter. Pen F, fabulous. EM5s. So you're shooting on the smaller side cameras, which are really good. I won't get into the Pannies, Canons, Nikons, Fujis. So basically, you're shooting the smaller, more compact of the Olympus cameras. If you have used an EM5 Mark III, you've used an EM1 Mark II. It's basically the same inside, different. It is a little bit bigger, not a huge amount. I do find the EM1 sit in the hand a lot nicer. But I had a conversation with somebody on I did a review. My friend Trev loaned me an EM1 Mark III, sorry, an EM5 Mark III about a year and a half ago. It was at the Christmas when I was down at Keswick with him. And we did some gear swapping. He took my G9 and my Lumix lenses, and I borrowed his EM5 Mark III and his Olympus lenses and did reviews on them. And I made a statement in there about really liking the EM5 Mark III, and it would be the camera I would buy. From my point of view, although I don't have an EM5 Mark III, if I was restricted to getting rid of all the cameras I've got and only having one camera, and I was told that was the only camera I was going to have, an EM5 Mark III or an OM5, the newer version of it, would be the camera I'd go for. I just find them so wide-ranging. So if you're used to EM5s, if you used an EM5 Mark III, then you've used an OM1 Mark II effectively. You have a few more. You've got things like more directly accessible custom modes on the wheel as opposed to going in through an on-screen menu. So it has a little bit more in that. It's a slightly bigger body, and of course you can use the grip as well, the battery grip, which gives you better if you're doing a lot of portrait mode photos. Then the battery grip for me is essential. So you can use that. You don't have that for the 5. Let's see, where's that gone? The whole load suddenly came in there. Yeah, Keith, hello. I've just mentioned you, Keith. How are you doing? Good to see you. I was saying about how you, I was offered to be shown around Orlando, and I also had a colleague on here who was saying that they're from County Antrim and how they'd just been across here. And I mentioned you saying that we had a really nice cup of coffee in Cyprus when we met up. So it's really good to see you online, Keith. I've seen you've done a few extra videos as well. If you haven't seen, if you look at Keith Anderson there, if you look at Keith's channel, he's taken some fantastic photos of mainly steam trains, steam locomotives in the UK, which are, you know, they're quite a special thing now that we don't have steam locos as the norm. So if you get the chance to go on his channel, have a look. Absolutely fantastic videos he's got, well worth watching, and a nice guy too. So good evening, Keith. Nice to see you. Ollie 40 to 150 f2.8 is a 67 thread, I believe. I think you're right. But as I say, that's the smaller one of these. Have you got one of those? If you've got one of those lenses, let me know what you think about it, Keith. Drop me an email. I think you've got my email address, haven't you, still? Drop me an email, tell me what you think about that, because I think that's a really interesting lens to look into. That, along with the 12 to 40 f2.8 Pro, is what a combination. Really good. So that's interesting. Let me know what you think about it. Great Vanzini photos, bit of a camera hoarder. Laugh on. Yeah, I am. I tend not to sell too many cameras, although I did sell my full frame cameras, all my Canon stuff, when I went to Micro Four Thirds. In fact, I have a 5D and a 7D sitting here, and they're the only ones I haven't. They're more museum pieces for me. They sit on the shelf, don't get used. I just don't really want to get rid of them either. Sort of a hoarder. Use an EM5 Mark 1 and Mark 2. The Mark 1 was the thing that got me into Micro Four Thirds. Joe from Wilkinson's Cameras in Carlisle, big shout out to Wilkinson's Cameras, because they've really looked after me over the years, and especially Joe, who's the manager in the Carlisle branch. Joe was the one who got me onto this, because I'd expressed an interest. I was shooting Canon. He knew what I did. He knew I was shooting Canon, and he had a used EM5 Mark 1 without a lens sitting on the shelf, and I'd heard all about Micro Four Thirds, and I'd been very wary about it, because the quality won't be there with a smaller sensor, all the common things. But he persuaded me it was a good idea to give one a try, and to get a lens, there was a GX1 with the 14 to 42 kit lens with it. So I actually ended up buying two Micro Four Thirds cameras. Totally uninterested in GX1. That could sit on the shelf, and I wasn't interested in it. I wanted it for the lens, so I bought that and my EM5 Mark 1. I still have the GX1. My niece has the EM5 Mark 1 because it came with a grip and things on, and unfortunately the 14 to 42 lens disappeared, but I still have that GX1, and I use it quite often actually. It's a great little camera just to stick in the pocket. So yeah, but try the Mark 3. If you haven't tried the Mark 3 or the OM5, certainly give it a go. But an AM1 Mark II or an AM1 Mark III would be an absolutely superb camera. There's just something nice about them, and comparable to the G9 I don't see a huge advantage over one or the other between the Lumix G9 and the AM1 Mark II. I've got both. I like them both. I'd probably go for the Olympus if I was just reaching out for one. So certainly give it a try. They're not very expensive either. They're really coming down in price. Where are we? Bit of camera hoarder. Rob! Hello, Rob! How are you? It's good to see Rob Trek. If you haven't checked out Rob Trek, and I know a lot of you have on here because I see the names. Rob does a live stream on Sunday afternoons UK time. I don't know what it is over there. Probably Sunday morning in the States. Rob is, I hope you don't mind me talking about you in the third person, Rob, but if you haven't seen Rob's videos, check them out. This guy knows his stuff, and he's just got a magic way of putting the details across. He did a great video a few years ago, because we talked about the 25mm f1.7 Lumix, and I found this was a really influential video on me about reviewing stuff, because he did one on using the Olympus and the Lumix on an Olympus camera and looking at the speed of focusing and things. It was done outside in a field with a tree and things on there. It was a really good video, and it was really a video where you could watch it, enjoy it, but also come away with a huge amount of information. If you haven't seen any of Rob Trek's videos, live streams on a Sunday, please check them out. I was very lucky because Rob invited me at the beginning of the year to be on his Micro Four Thirds review, or one of two this year, because he organised two. Huge amount of organisation behind it, by the way, so thanks to Rob. But I had the being on with Rob and four other Micro Four Thirds stars, in my opinion, people I've looked up to for doing reviews and things, and I think they're still online if you get the chance to look at them, but they're just really good. So if you haven't checked out Rob Trek's channel, he's far better than me. He's, you know, really is, and I'm not just saying that. He really does do some fantastic treasure trove. Don't just look at his newest stuff. Go through some of the back videos that he's done, and have a look at some of the stuff on there. So hi Rob, it really is a pleasure to see you on here. Nice to see you. Keith Anderson, I have one. It's very good. Next time we meet, I'll let you use. Oh, thanks. That's great. I'll look forward to that, because that's a lens I'd like to have a good try on. In Rob Trek and exclamation marks. I actually was on the thing with Rob. I was also on with Robin Wong on the same thing where we had the Micro Four Thirds get together. The one I didn't have, because there were, say, Rob organised 2 of them with different people on, and on Micro Four Nerds. Again, if you haven't checked out Micro Four Nerds, I did a video about her a little while ago. She is incredible. I was on with Rob, but I was on with Robin Wong. I have so much time for Robin Wong because his presentation skills are superb. I'm trying to think who else I was on with. Matty Solanto. I was certainly on with Matty. I'm trying to remember, because I watched both of them. I watched them back. The only problem is with the first one I was. But I don't know if you're going to organise one again this year. But no, I'm not too kind. I'm actually quite honest. It's not too kind at all, Rob. Yeah, if you are organising one for the beginning of next year, because I know it's a huge amount of organisation. If I am on it, great, I'd love to be. If I'm not on it, you can guarantee I'll be watching the video, because the atmosphere on both those videos was just so good. But if you do get the chance to see Rob's channel, please do. Emily's channel, superb. Peter Forsgaard was on the one that we did as well, wasn't he? It was. I forgot about that. Yes, Peter was on with us as well. Yeah, it's not too kind at all. It is absolutely honest opinion. Rob is one of the luminaries as far as I'm concerned in Micro Four Thirds, and it's really an education to see what he does. So thanks very much for that. I'm just looking at the time. Where we had to buy a new watch recently. I've been on an hour and a half, and I think that's enough listening to me. I am really indebted to everybody who's come on. I know it's been several months since I did a live stream. I'll try and do them more often. As I said a little while ago, I'd lost my confidence, actually. I was a bit nervous coming on tonight, because as I say, I'd lost my confidence doing some of these videos, and I was rather nervous coming on. And as I say, it's all being done through a 4G connection on my mobile phone, because I still don't have internet. I'm looking on the route at the moment. They've still got a red light on there, so goodness knows when I'm going to get my internet back. So I was worried about the techie side, but I was also worried how I was going to relate to everybody. But as usual, the people I'm indebted to you, I really do appreciate you giving up your time to listen to me waffling on. I really do appreciate you giving up your time to come onto the channel, and great vibes on the Micro Four Thirds channel. Absolutely. You know, before I finish on that, I'll pick up on that, because I know what Rob's just said on there, and what I've just been saying on these things. But one of the things I'm really impressed with, and I'm really pleased that I started doing videos about Micro Four Thirds, it's not about the cameras. Let's face it, a good photographer will take almost a shoebox and get a good photograph out of it. You know, there's different. Most cameras, I've said this already tonight, most cameras, I asked you to put comments up about bad cameras or bad lenses. I haven't seen any comment about bad cameras and bad lenses. I don't believe there are really any bad ones at all being made of the, you know, from the main manufacturers. You might get something which comes on a cheap channel from somewhere in deepest darkest China, which is being plowed together from mainly plastic. But I'm on about proper cameras. We just don't seem to get that. So the actual thing of Micro Four Thirds cameras as an item, so what? But one of the things I have noticed about all the channels, you've got all the people I just mentioned there, Emily on there, who else? I'm so bad on names and things, but I mean, you've got Red 35's another channel. I look at some of the other camera channels which are specialised in things, and they can be quite. Sometimes it can be a little bit catty. Sometimes it can be a little bit competitive with each other. I don't see that in the Micro Four Thirds world. When I see Rob doing one of his live streams, or when I see Robin doing one of their live streams, I usually log on and I'll usually say hello. I really don't like to be too much of it, because of the fact that it's not about me. It's about them, and it's about the people who have watching them on there. I'm a viewer. But there never seems to be competition between us. There doesn't seem to be any one-upmanship. It seems to be, you know, if I see Robin Wong do a video which is successful, I'm really happy for him. If I see, you know, Red 35 do a video which is successful, I'm really happy for him. You know, if Rob does, it is a really good vibe on Micro Four Thirds channels. And you're right, Greg Vanzini, I think it really is. And it's down to the people who are on this list of comments here and all the rest of the people who watch. If you didn't have good people watching and good comments come from them, we wouldn't have channels to do. So, you know, I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And I appreciate all the Micro Four Thirds channels. I'm not trying to compete with them. Excuse me, that's probably bloody your ears off. I do apologise for that. You know, I've got nothing to compete with. What I can say is that, you know, I learn from them, and hopefully I try to regurgitate some of that into a different way of thinking. But I do learn from those people. Rob, so many new on Micro Four Thirds channels. I may have to do 3 or 4 annual meetups. I know. We're doing the second one this year, and it wasn't as if, you know, you could have maybe 6 people on each one. Oh, is it going to be diluted? It wasn't. The second one was totally different to the first one. The personalities coming through on both of them was just fabulous. And there is, I mean, there was a first live stream from Grant Robert Davis, the Australian guy, and I've been watching him. He's been coming up slowly on things, and I love some of his videos. Totally different to my sort of outlook on videos, total Aussie sort of style of doing it. But he did his first live stream the other night, and I think I was the only one who was on it, because it was times and things. But it was really nice chatting to him, and again, his viewpoint was so different to mine, but so positive. And you know, if you haven't seen Grant Robert Davis, check him out. He's really good guy, mainly Lumix shooter. I think he's got a couple of Olympus cameras now, not specifically to Micro Four Thirds, although 90% of his photography is. But yeah, it's there are such a lot of really good content creators out there for Micro Four Thirds, and I do get the vibe from all of us that we are just so happy to see the others do well. And I'm saying that totally from the heart, because again, if one of the other creators is doing well with their videos, then I have the opportunity to watch. I watch more video than I ever create, and I need something to feed the monster inside. So when I see other creators putting out stuff which is interesting, which is informative, then it's in my benefit. So really good. Great Vanzini, yes, Rob Trek do 10. I think you'd be shattered, Rob. I think you'd be just about crawling across the floor with the amount of organisation. What people don't realise is the amount of emails that went backwards and forwards between Rob and the people who were appearing on the meetups was phenomenal. It went on for quite a while beforehand, and just trying to think of the subject and trying to make a subject so that it's good, and trying to get a running order, and to try and get it so that there's some sort of structure to it. Rob, you know, you would be amazed if you saw what Rob did on that. I sort of sat there bang, yeah, I'll talk about this, you know, but I saw what was going on. And yeah, it's good. So 10, I think he would be crawling across the floor. Rob Track, Scared Community, such a pleasure working with both the creators and chatting with the viewers in the streams. Absolutely. Eric, I'm going to take over the Micro Four Thirds world. Do that. Take it over. Except they're an introvert. So what you see in photography, the 1920s black and white screen with written lettering, and I'll even use piano music. Do you know what? Why not? Why not? Actually, I think most of the creators are introverts. Just because you have an open outward vision for people doesn't mean to say you can't be an introvert. Again, Bev and I have talked about being introverts and being extroverts and things. I'm used to being on stage. I'm a singer, I'm a performer, I go on stage and I perform to audiences, but I'm incredibly shy. I'm quite opinionated, and that comes through quite a lot, and I don't worry about that. But I'm not a great one for going into crowds. I'm not a great, I don't easily make friends. I've got a lot of acquaintances and very few friends. So there's an awful lot of us introverts on here, Eric. And to be honest, from what you just said, why not? Because you'd be unique on doing that. And, you know, photography is an expression. And how you do that expression is very individualistic. And I think that'd be absolutely a great idea. I'd love to see that. If you do it, give me a shout. Rob, yes, Grant will be my guest soon. Great, because he's a nice guy. Great Vanzini, yes, Grant is a good one too. Listen, people, thank you so much. I'm indebted to you all, as I said. I'm not going to go through that lot again, but I'm going to cut tonight to an end soon, so please bear with me. I've got to get my confidence back a little bit. That sounds very playing the victim. I don't mean to sound the victim on that one. It's not a victim thing, but I just need to get my confidence back because I want to give you something decent, not just something for the sake of it. So look after yourselves wherever you are in the world, and thanks for being part of tonight. I really do appreciate it, and I'll look forward to seeing the next video. And as I say, I'll try and do one of these live streams about once a month. As I say, it's probably going to be a Tuesday because it avoids Rob's on the Sunday, avoids Robin's on the Thursday, and I think you need to be able to get yourself set into something so we don't dominate your life too much. Final thing, Joe, David Flower does some amazing street photography, uses MFT and all the gear. Does he have a channel up online? I'll have a search for David Flower. I'm going to put this to an end, but I'll have a look for David Flower on that one. Thanks again, everybody. Wherever in the world, enjoy yourselves. Keep safe. Keep out of the risk that we're getting if you're in the UK. Keep yourself safe from that one. And whatever you do, keep on taking your camera out and having fun with it, because that's what it's about. See you soon. Bye-bye.